ברוכות הבאות, ladies. ברוכות הנמצאות. Thank you so much for coming out tonight to grace us with your presence. It's so amazing that every month you make an effort to attend these shiurim and to grace the hosts with your presence, because you bring tremendous bracha to the home of the host. You should know that. I always tell the ladies, try not to chicken out of coming, because you don't know what you do in this house. You just don't know. You bring bracha, and also the host's house gives you bracha as well. So it works both ways. So Baruch Hashem that you came. That's number one. Number two, I just wanted to say that this shiur is being sponsored Leilui Nishmat Nina Bat Rachel V'Yitzchak, and for the refuah shlema of Miriam Bat Louise. So first of all, for Nina, who's Rachel's mother, Aleh Shalom, she should have an aliyat neshama, and the neshama should have tremendous nachat ruach from any inspiration that you gain. And of course, whatever you apply in your life as a result, it should be for zchut for her in the shamayim. And of course, that we should see the refuah shlema of Miriam Bat Louise bekarov mamash. You know, before we knew that the shiur was going to take place in Rachel's house, we played musical houses this past week. It was supposed to be in one person's house, then it was supposed to be in somebody else's house, then it went back to that. It would just, I was so confused. And then, you don't know what happened. And then finally, I get the texts from both of you fighting back and forth who's going to host. And finally it was decided that it's going to be here in Rachel's house in Bergenfield, New Jersey. Now, I have to tell you, I was in the process of finishing up writing the shiur. And you know, a shiur takes a long time to prepare. It could take days, if not weeks. You got to gather material, you have to listen to other shiurim, you have to read books. And in the middle of me writing the shiur, you're going to see, it hit me. I'm like, there's a reason why everything was switched and we ended up over here. I'm not going to tell you why, because I'm going to ruin it for you. But at the end, you're going to see as we progress, you're going to figure it out on your own why it had to be. And then I said, Yishtabach Shemo La'ad. Nothing is ever in vain. Nothing is ever a coincidence. Everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to be. So we're going to find out what this is. You're going to find out the secret tonight. Ladies, in this past week's Parashat, Beha'alotcha, now that just was, we find the journeys that Am Yisrael traveled in the Midbar. You see, when they left Egypt, they were only supposed to travel for 11 days and then enter Eretz Yisrael. But the nation was sidetracked because of various avonot, and what should have been an 11-day trip turned out to be a 40-year journey. Do you imagine? And on this journey, Am Yisrael traveled from one place to the next, totaling 42 different stations that are called Masaot. And in our parasha, even though we're not told the names of the different places, that we're told later on in Parashat Matot and Masei, but we're taught how Bnei Yisrael traveled. You see, Bnei Yisrael had an amazing navigation system. The Pasuk tells us, Al pi Hashem yisa'u, ve'al pi Hashem yachanu. At the bidding of Hashem, Bnei Yisrael traveled, and at the bidding of Hashem, they encamped. Kol yemei asher yishkon ha'anan al hamishkan yachanu. As long as the cloud of glory hovered above the Mishkan, they knew they had to be encamped. You see, there was a cloud that represented the Shekhinah HaKadosha, and when the cloud moved, Am Yisrael followed the cloud. When the cloud stopped, Bnei Israel rested. Now there were times that the cloud rested in a certain spot for many days, and sometimes it was an overnight stay. But if the cloud rested over a particular place for many days, Am Yisrael took it as a sign that they were not supposed to travel, and they didn't. The Jewish people remained loyal to the navigation system of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So tonight we're going to learn just one chidush that's brought down by the Shlach HaKadosh Alav Shalom. You see, he learned something practical from these travels that we can apply to our life today. You see, even though we don't have certain mitzvot that we observe today because the Bet HaMikdash is not yet rebuilt, but the application and the lesson of the mitzvah is still observed. The Torah HaKadosha is eternal, and all of its lessons and all of the mitzvot are eternal. So even though there are certain mitzvot that we don't observe in the same manner that the Torah prescribes, but still there's another way that we could connect HaKadosh Baruch Hu through that mitzvah. That being said, the Shlach HaKadosh asks the following question. Why would the Torah in this parasha repeat the words Al pi Adonai yachanu ve'al pi Adonai yisa'u 7 different times? Why do we have to know that Am Yisrael moved and encamped according to the navigation system of Hashem? So many times we have to know this. Once is enough, no? No?
Yeah.
Why does the Torah mention this fact 7 times where we're told Am Yisrael followed the cloud of Hashem loyally? 7 times. Chachamim explain that this demonstrates, first and foremost, the greatness of that generation, Dor HaMidbar. Could you imagine traveling in the desert and stopping at a certain place, not knowing when you're going to leave? Can you imagine? You don't know if you're going to be there for 1 day, or if you're going to be there for a year. And we all know how difficult it is to pack and unpack, right? Imagine unpacking where everything is finally in order, and then the next morning, boom, the cloud starts to move. But nobody ever complained to Moshe Rabbeinu. Nobody said, hey, what's going on over here? We just got here and already we have to travel? Nobody said, we've been here for a month already, so when are we going to leave this God-forsaken place, this midbar? We need a change of scenery. And you should know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembers Am Yisrael's loyalty where they trusted him as they traveled in the desert. The Jews of that time displayed the kind of emunah we should all hope to achieve, where they understood that wherever they were, they believed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put them in that place for a particular reason. That's what earned Am Yisrael the remembrance of Hashem, where he could proclaim the words, Zacharti lach, chesed ne'uraich, ahavat kelulotayich. I remember the loving kindness of your youth, the love of your nuptials. Lechtech acharai bamidbar, be'eretz lo zru'ah. How you followed me in the desert, in a land that isn't sown. I remember the great things that you did when you were just a young nation. You didn't question me. You didn't doubt me. You didn't challenge me. Ladies, you have to understand the miracle of the Jewish people. There were millions of people in that desert, and when the cloud moved, nobody pushed to get to the front of the line. They all traveled with their shvatim, according to their flags, in an organized, systemized fashion. And then when the cloud rested, nobody decided to leave the encampment and travel ahead all on their own. The entire nation followed the cloud of Hashem meticulously and without hesitation or doubt. Am Yisrael felt that if they were in a particular place, it meant that Hashem wanted them to be there. Now your wheels could start turning already. Are your wheels turning?
Yeah.
You heard those words? If they were in a particular place, it meant that Hashem wanted them to be there. As a matter of fact, the Sifrei Kabbalah teach that there's a reason why Bnei Israel encamped in some places for a short while in other places they were there for much longer. You see, the Mefarshim explain that in all those places that Am Yisrael encamped, all of them, in those places there were what's called nitzutzei kedusha. There were sparks of holiness that ended up in that spot. They were located in those particular places. Not only that, but there were also certain aspects of Tumah that were also situated in those places. And based on how much Kedusha or Tumah was positioned in a particular place, that would determine how long Bnei Israel would remain in that place. Am Yisrael needed to make tikkunim. They needed to make all kinds of rectifications that took place through their study of Torah, through tefillot, through ma'asim tovim, and that's how they were able to spiritually correct. So you know what we were busy doing in the Midbar? You know what we were busy doing? We were busy collecting all the Kedusha, all those holy sparks that were situated there, and at the same time, we were busy ridding the place of Tumah. So, in a place where there was a small amount of Kedusha, Am Yisrael didn't need to stay there long. It was enough just to stay overnight with just a few tefillot, a few mitzvot, a little bit of Torah learning. They were able to make a tikkun. Yalla, next. And obviously, Hashem knew exactly how much Kedusha was situated in each of these places. And the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh Alav HaShalom teaches us, and he writes something fascinating. He says, just like there were 42 journeys that Am Yisrael traveled in the Midbar, in life, every human being goes through 42 different stations. And if you think about it, you'll see it's true. When you were born, lemashal, you began your journey in the hospital, in a particular place. And then you were taken home. And then maybe your parents at some point moved during their lifetime, and you moved along with them. Then you grew up and you got married and you moved to another location. Perhaps at some point during your marriage, you moved again. But the point that the Baal Shem Tov is saying is that all these places where you've been, they're part of your masa'ot. These are your personal travels in life, and they're part of your personal tikkun. Hashem brings you to the exact place that you're supposed to be. Al pi Hashem yachanu, ve'al pi Hashem yisau. You understand? And even though there's no spiritual cloud that's navigating us today, but Borei Olam is still directing us to the places that we're supposed to be. While you wonder why you ended up in a certain place, and maybe you may not have even wanted to be there. Maybe you didn't even feel like coming here tonight. But Hashem knows that in that specific place there's something that only you could do. That's the reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu puts you there. Make no mistake about it, ladies. You're here in this room tonight because there's something that Kadosh Baruch Hu needs you to accomplish here in this room. You hear?
Yeah.
And
No, I was thinking.
you're thinking? Okay, good. It's good to think. It's good to think. Rav Huna Alav HaShalom teaches us that concept. He said the following: בדרך שאדם רוצה ללך, בה מוליכין אותו. Simply speaking, it means that the road that a person wants to walk on, that's the road that he's guided to. That means that if you want to choose the road of Kedusha, of Tahara, Hashem will lead you on that road of purity. Because you want to be there. You want to be on that road. And if you chas v'shalom want to walk on the path of Averot, guess what? Hashem is going to open up those roads for you as well. Because a person has bechira chofshit. It's you who chooses the road that you want to travel on, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu leads you towards the road that you chose. That's the simple interpretation of Rav Huna's words. But Chachamim explain something deeper than that. You see, you think you're going towards a certain place because you want to go there. But in reality, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu who wants you to be in that particular place. B'derech she'adam rotze lelech. Although you think that the path in front of you is the one you want to travel on, she'adam rotze lelech, ba molichin oto. You're being brought to that place. You think it's you who's going, but you're being led by a higher force. You're being brought to that place for a higher purpose, because in that place there's something that needs to be done, and only you could do it. Only you could make the tikkun that's required. So let me tell you a story that's written in the Ben Ish Chai Alav Shalom Sefer, titled Od Yosef Chai. Hold on to your seats. The Ben Ish Chai tells a story about a certain tzaddik who we later on realized it was him that he's talking about. But he doesn't mention his name, but we know that it's him. And he writes the following. He says that there was once a tzaddik who was a great mekubal, who was betrayed by lies to the government, and he was wrongly imprisoned. And the tzaddik was not placed together with all the other prisoners, but rather he was in solitary confinement all by himself in a tiny room. And it was also decreed by the governor that no man should visit him or speak with him. And after being in prison for 30 days, the tzaddik was, Baruch Hashem, found innocent, and then he was sent home. So the tzaddik realized that Hashem performed a miracle for him, because during those 30 days that he sat there in that prison, he thought of all kinds of mystical insights and chidushim on the Torah. And in his mind, he had already prepared an entire deep shiur. So he was so happy. But even so, the tzaddik had a hard time falling asleep, because he was bothered by the entire ordeal that he experienced. He couldn't understand why HaKadosh Baruch Hu decreed that he should suffer physically for all those days. He barely ate, he didn't shower. Being in that kind of prison in those days, in the 1800s, it's not like today, cable television in the jails. After all, he thought to himself, if Hashem wanted me to come up with this intricate shiur, he could have arranged it that I should do it from home. He was wondering, why was it necessary for him to be in that prison all this time, for 30 days? And then the tzaddik finally fell asleep, and he had a dream. He dreamt that he was walking alone in the vast desert, and suddenly he saw an elderly man walking towards him. And it seemed to him that this old man had to be from the other world. So the tzaddik approached this elderly man and he said, Kvodo, please, I'm very perplexed about one thing. Could you tell me why I was confined for 30 days in that harsh, narrow, and bitter jail? And the old man said to him, turn around and tell me what you see. The tzaddik turned around and he saw 3 groups of children walking one after the other. And interestingly, these groups of children, these 3 groups, they all had the same face and the same pleasing demeanor as this tzaddik. They all looked like him. And then the old man said, you see these children? It was for the sake of these children that you entered that terrible prison. You see, these children are holy neshamot. But it was decreed from Shamayim that they should come back to this world in a gilgul, in a reincarnation, of all the inanimate objects that were in that tiny room where you sat for 30 days. They were in the walls, they were in the floor, they were in the chair, they were in the table. And all of these neshamot, they share a part of your neshama. They all have roots that come from your neshama. That's why they all look like you. And they're divided into 3 groups because you corrected and you purified each group for 10 days. That's why you had to sit in the jail for 30 days. There was no other way to rectify these neshamot or to extract them from that prison other than you sitting there for those 30 days learning the mystical chidushim of Torah. And you would not have achieved that if you would have been sitting at home. It was impossible for anyone else to make their tikkun other than you, because those neshamot are connected to you. It was therefore decreed from Shamayim that false charges should be brought against you, and that you should be incarcerated in that particular jail for 30 days. And it was also hashgacha pratit that it was decided that nobody should visit you and nobody should speak with you, because in that way you wouldn't be disturbed in your learning, because you had a short time to achieve so very much. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted you to learn undistracted, so that this way you'd gather sufficient power to extract those neshamot from their entrapment in that lowly place. And you did just that. You were successful. Those are the children you see walking after you. They're like your children, they're like your sons, who you're going to see waiting for you in the next world, and you're going to delight in them. He says, see how much you gained during those 30 days? And how much goodness you accomplished during that time? All those neshamot are waiting for you to come to the next world to thank you, because in that prison there were Gentiles who engaged in all kinds of impure acts, and that caused these pure neshamot tremendous pain and suffering. But then you came along and you set them free. What more can I say? This happened to the Ben Ish Chai. You hear this? And then when he woke up from his dream, he was so happy that he collected more chidushim, and as a result of this incident, he published a sefer called Matir Asurim. That means even in his darkest hour, the Ben Ish Chai remained resolute in his emunah in Hashem, and he understood that the calamity that had befallen him was for a reason. He understood that ultimately we have to trust Hashem and believe that everything that happens is part of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's master plan. Every situation we find ourselves in and every place that Hashem leads us to is a precious opportunity for Avodat Hashem and for spiritual growth. So ladies, you are sitting here today and not anywhere else because there are certain holy sparks in this very room that need elevation, and only you could elevate them. And that's why no one else is here, only you. You understand that too? So, because what happened here so far, as you sat here, first of all, waiting for the shiur to begin, you made brachot over the foods and the drinks. Well, you honestly think that you made the bracha of shakol nihiya bidvaro because you were thirsty? Absolutely not. HaKadosh Baruch Hu guided you towards these actions because there's a tikkunim that have to be made by you in this very room through your bracha. Bederech she'adam rotzeh lelech. You think you want to drink a cup of water because you're thirsty. And Hashem says, no. Bamolichinoto. You're being given the desire to want to drink because your bracha is going to effectuate the elevation of all those holy sparks that are situated right here in this room today. You're making brachot because something greater is happening. That means Hashem is bringing you to your destiny. Nobody's ever going to come here again, I think, after this. They're all scared. They're all scared of the holy nitzotzot that are in your walls and in your furniture. But it's good, don't worry. Ladies, the point is, do you realize how comforting this idea is? It's such a comfort to know that wherever you are in life, there's a reason why you're there. Hashem is guiding you towards fulfillment, towards some accomplishment. Hashem is guiding you towards the path that you belong on. You know what that means? You know what that means? It means that a Jew is never lost. You're never lost. You're always going to be exactly where you have to be. Just like Am Yisrael had specific spots along their journey in the desert, so do we travel and stop in various places along our journey in life. And in those places, we're accomplishing a great deal. So let me read to you the words of the Shlach HaKadosh, and then I want to take this idea one step further. And if you want to read this story and the whole life of the Ben Ish Chai, which is fascinating, there's a beautiful book written by Azulai is the last name, I don't remember the first name, and it's pretty much the story of the Ben Ish Chai. It's a thick book like this. And I'm just going to tell you just one little prat, one little detail, it's in English, about the Ben Ish Chai, just to make you understand the level of this man. When he was born, and he was only 4 years old. You know what a 4-year-old is, right? Mama, 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 mommy, mama, no. You know what a 4-year-old is, right? Not the Ben Ish Chai. One Motzei Shabbat, it happened to be that the Ben Ish Chai's father, who was a big tzaddik, alav shalom, he always used to ask the children all kinds of questions on Torah and Motzei Shabbat. It didn't matter if you were 3, 4, 5, you were asked the questions. So, the question that the Ben Ish Chai's father had on Motzei Shabbat was, after Adam HaRishon sinned, it says that Hashem came to Adam, and he asked him, Ayeka, where are you? Didn't Hashem know where Adam was? How come he asked such a question? Hashem knew where he was. That's the father asking. The Ben Ish Chai, who was 4 years old, raised his hand. He says, I know. He says, yes. He says, because in the word Ayeka is the answer to your question. 4-year-old. So the father says, what do you mean? He says, because Ayeka is Rashi Tevot for the words Ani Yodea Kol HaNistarot. I know all of what's hidden. You can't hide from me. It wasn't really a question. It was like a rhetorical question. I know where you are. That's the Ben Ish Chai at 4 years old. Read the book. Azulai is the last name. You're going to be fascinated by the things that went on in his life. But anyway, so, like we said, listen to the words of the Shlach HaKadosh. Very, very fascinating. He says, Al kol pe'ula o tnu'a she'adam oseh. Any action or any movement that a person makes, Yomar im yirtzeh Hashem or be'ezrat Hashem. He should say the words, God willing, or with the help of Hashem it'll happen. Lemashal, belechto baderech. For example, let's say you have to go somewhere. Yomar hineni nosea be'ezrat Hashem. I am going, the person should say, I am now traveling, I'm going, be'ezrat Hashem. Ubeda'ati lachanot ploni be'ezrat Hashem. And it's my intention to reach a particular destination, be'ezrat Hashem. Uchsheba limkom hachanaya. And when you arrive at your destination, az yachzor v'yiten shevach. You should again praise Hashem and say, Hine be'ezrat Hashem bati. Baruch Hashem, I got here, I arrived. Nimtza שהשמיים שגור בפיו בכל פעולותיו. In this way, we see that the heavens are always on the tip of his mouth at every single juncture of his life. And that's what the pasuk in Parashat Ba'alotcha is teaching us. Al pi Hashem. Al pi Hashem. The name of Hashem should always be on your lips. Vaisa'u. When you travel, when you go anywhere. Ve'al pi Hashem yachanu. And the name of Hashem should be on your lips also when you arrive at your destination. In other words, nothing should ever be taken for granted. Whether you're going on an overnight trip or a longer vacation, the words Im Yirtzeh Hashem, Be'ezrat Hashem, should always be part of your speech. Shla Kadosh. Now, ladies, people have the tendency to carry Hashem with them only when they're going on a very long trip. If you're traveling to Eretz Yisrael on a 11-hour flight, we're going to hear the words Im Yirtzeh Hashem, Be'ezrat Hashem coming out of your mouth a lot more than if you were walking to your local grocery store or the pizza shop. Because imagine telling your friend, I'm going to the pizza store for a slice of pizza, Be'ezrat Hashem. Your friend's going to look at you like you fell off the moon. Even you're giggling to yourself. What Be'ezrat Hashem? The pizza store is just a block away. Right? Somehow, we don't mention Hashem on our local ventures because we think that since we don't have to provide a passport at the local checkout counter at the grocery store, so there's no need to mention Hashem. And that's why statistically, studies show that there are many more accidents within a 5-mile radius of your own home than when you travel far away. Why? Chachamim say, because when you travel abroad, your mouth is filled with praises to Hashem and you're mentioning Him quite a lot. You're safer, you have shmirah. You have better shmirah. But in the places where you think that you could go without Hashem, those are the places that you're lacking HaKadosh Baruch Hu's shmirah. You hear this? Shla Kadosh. And the Shla Kadosh explains that the reason why you have to be so mindful of this idea is because wherever you carry Hashem with you, it's there that you're going to find bracha. Simple as that. Not only that, but if you could adapt such an attitude, it saves us from the awful midah of kochi ve'otzem yadi, where people think that their success resulted from their own strength, from their own abilities. So Hashem looks down and He says, you think your success is attributed to you and that I wasn't involved? You think you don't need me? Okay, let's see how far you get without me. Bon nireh. So the Torah Kedusha warns us that we should never think and we should never say, Kochi ve'otzem yadi asali et ha'chayil hazeh. But if before you leave your house, no matter where you're journeying to, you say, Be'ezrat Hashem, Be'ezrat Hashem, that means that you're reminding yourself that any success you have that day is going to be dependent on Hashem. And then when you come home, even if it's after a short trip, as short as going to the local grocery store, you have to attribute your return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as well. That's a key item in life that's going to sharpen your emunah in Hashem. Al pi Hashem yachanu, ve'al pi Hashem yisa'u. There's no journey of life, no matter how small, that is not dependent on Hashem, decreed by Hashem, or guided by Hashem. In the Tefillah of Arvit, in the words of Hashkivenu, we recite the following words. Very interesting. The next time you say Tefillat Arvit, you'll see, this will conjure up in your mind. We say, Vehaser hasatan milfanenu u'me'achorenu. We ask Hashem to remove the Satan from before us and from after us. So it seems that the Satan is lefanenu. He's standing there before we're about to do something. And then after we finish doing it, He's ma'achorenu, He's there too. So before we set out on any journey of life, the Satan is there telling us, Just go. Just go. You don't need to pray. You don't need to ask God for permission. You don't need His blessing. You're strong. You're healthy. You're capable. Go. Just go. That's why we recite the words, V'haser hasatan milefanenu. Before we set out on any journey and the Satan claims that we could proceed further based on our own strengths and our own abilities, we ask Hashem, please remove that Satan from us. And then once we return from that journey, and we assume that we came back because of our own merits, or that we accomplished what we did because of our own chokhmah, if we start to take credit for our own wisdom, that's a sign of the Satan who bothers us, ma'achorenu. That's the Satan that troubles us following our journey. And that's why we ask Hashem to remove the Satan, melefanenu u'ma'achorenu. So the question is, what's the solution to this problem of the Satan, who's always bothering us, before and after? Well, it comes at the end of the tefillah of Arvit, because we also say, Uvetzel knafecha tastirenu. We ask Hashem to shelter us under His wings before or after any journey that we proceed on. So I saw a very interesting chidush. Listen to this, ladies, concerning the conversation that Moshe Rabbeinu had with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is a very deep conversation that takes place in Sefer Shemot, where Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem, Hodiyeni na et derachecha. Please, Hashem, show me your ways. And Hashem responds to Moshe Rabbeinu saying, Panai yelechu v'hanichoti lach. My presence will go and I will give you rest. And then later on, the pasuk says, and these words are going to become very familiar to you, Vayavor Adonai al panav vayikra Hashem Hashem kel rachum v'chanun erech apayim v'rav chesed v'emet notzer chesed la'alafim noseh avon v'pesha v'chata'a. These words are familiar to you? These are the 13 attributes of mercy. We recite them all day long on Yom Kippur. But does anybody know what's going on over here? Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem to show him His ways, and Hashem responds by saying, oh, my presence will go before you. And then He proceeds to declare 13 attributes of mercy. What's going on? Ladies, this entire exchange between Moshe Rabbeinu and Hashem is a very deep part of our Torah. And there are many, many mystical insights into this mysterious conversation. But based on everything we've been discussing until now, we could say the following. Moshe Rabbeinu was asking Hashem the following. Hodiyeni na. Please, Hashem, show me that everywhere I go should be et derachecha. It should be your road. And even when I venture out onto my own personal endeavors and errands, and I'm taking care of my own needs, Hodiyeni na, is there a secret, et derachecha, that I could turn my personal travels into your road? Because I want my life to become aligned with your road, Hashem. And then Hashem answers Moshe Rabbeinu saying, Panai yelechu. Panai is like lifnei. Hashem says, put me first. Panai yelechu. So Hashem says, before you proceed on any journey, mention my name first, and then you'll turn that personal trip into a situation where I escort you from beginning to end. And then the psukim go on, Vayavor Hashem al panav vayikra. What does Hashem say? Hashem, Hashem, kel rachum v'chanun, erech apayim, and so on and so forth. Ladies, according to the Ari HaKadosh, alav shalom, who was also one of the biggest mekubalim, I don't think there was, since the Ari, anyone that even comes close. The Yarei HaKadosh, according to the Yarei HaKadosh, the first of the 13 midot of Rachamim is the name Kel. Then that's the first one. Then it's Rachum, number 2. Then Chanun, number 3. Chanun v'Rachum, Erech, Apayim, and so on and so forth. Now there are different ways that Chachamim enumerate the 13 midot of Rachamim, but our tradition is to begin counting the 13 midot of mercy, starting with the name of Hashem, Kel. Aleph, Lamed. And then we continue with the other words. Rachum is number 2, V'Chanun is number 3, Erech number 4, so on and so forth. Now, if we go according to this, why are the names of Hashem, Hashem, Hashem repeated twice at the onset of the pasuk? What's that? If we've got already the 13 midot starting from Kel, Rachum, V'Chanun, Erech, Apayim, what's the Hashem, Hashem? What's that? Why is it there? Chachamim tell us, but that's what Hashem was hinting to Moshe Rabbeinu. Hashem was telling him, if you want to be protected under the 13 midot of Rachamim, and you want success in life, you have to mention my name twice. Hashem, Hashem. One time before you venture out on any of your errands in life. Doesn't matter where you go, any travels. That's when you say, Be'ezat Hashem. And then after that, when you come back, you should say, Baruch Hashem, I arrived. That's Hashem number 2. That's the second one. You hear this? That's the secret.
But I believe if you're alone, you say, Bezat Hashem, I'm going to the ShopRite.
To ShopRite, yes. Bezat Hashem, I'm going to shop.
To yourself.
Yes, you can say it to yourself. I said it to myself when I arrived here. I said, oh, Baruch Hashem, I got here.
Okay.
But Chachamim say once a person realizes that every step that he takes has Hatzlacha, because Hashem supervises his journey. Once a person conjures up Hashem's name twice, Hashem, Hashem, before and after his journey, then you know what's going to happen? Kel, Rachum, V'Chanun, Erech, Apayim, V'Rav Chesed, V'Emet. Then you're going to be susceptible to all the midot of Rachamim of Hashem. Then you're walking with Hashem, and that's when you're experiencing true Amunah. That's how you're able to turn your road into Hashem's road. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu's message to Moshe Rabbeinu was. In other words, if you consider Hashem prior to your journey, and also following any excursion of life, you're going to enjoy the benefits of all the midot of Rachamim that Hashem's going to shower upon you. Now I want to share a secret with you, because women love secrets. There's a halakha that says that if we go on a trip that's more than 72 minutes outside our city, we have to recite Tefillat HaDerech. We all know this, right? And the Gemara comments on this inyan, and it says, Hayotze LaDerech. When a person has to travel on the road, Hamlech bekonecha v'tzeh. You have to ask permission from your Creator first, and then you could set out on your journey. Ladies, if you think about it, the way a Jew travels is unbelievable. Hamlech bekonecha. You have to ask permission from God. Why? Well, Chachamim say, imagine you're standing in front of a king, Basar Vadam, and you have to leave. Wouldn't you excuse yourself appropriately from the king's presence and inform the king, why does he have to leave? Where does he have to go and ask for permission to leave? Would you just turn around and give the king your back and leave? Yes or no? So the Gemara is saying, if you're traveling outside your city, you have to talk with Hashem. You have to ask permission from Hashem. Hashem, with your permission, I would like to leave the city. Hamlech bekonecha v'tzeh. I want to leave the city, Hashem, with your permission. Now I have a question. I understand the idea of asking Hashem for permission to leave, so to speak, or maybe asking for a blessing. But why does the Gemara add the words, v'tzeh, and then you could leave? I have to be told I could leave now? I know I could leave. Once I ask for permission, I leave. I know I could leave. So why the Chachamim being so explicit? Get permission to leave and then leave. I know I'm leaving. Ladies, listen to this deep chidush. There is a concept in this world called teva. Teva means nature. According to the Sfarim HaKadoshim, nature has a tendency to be very, very cruel. I'll give you an example of what Chachamim say. The nature of fire is that it burns. That's the nature of fire. The nature of water is that it drowns or floods. Nature follows certain rules and does not make exceptions unless HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells it to make an exception. Meaning it doesn't matter if you're a tzaddik or a rasha, gravity is for everybody. If somebody falls out of a window from the 25th floor of a building, the teva, nature, doesn't consider the possibility that the person who's falling is a tzaddik. Gravity won't allow that person, no matter who he is, to just remain suspended in midair. Nature says gravity is gravity and nature is unyielding. Lemashal, the nature of a rock. The nature of a rock is what? That it's always hard. If a little boy, God forbid, hits himself against the rock doesn't tell itself, oh, it's a little boy, let me turn myself into a pillow to soften the blow. You understand? The teva follows a set system and it never makes an exception. And Chachamim tell us nature is the most obedient of all of Hashem's creations. Now in that same way, Chachamim tell us that Hashem has many names. The name that describes Hashem's attribute of strict justice in the world, of din, is Elokim. And the numerical value of the name Elokim is 86. 86 is Elokim. Interestingly, 86 is also the same numerical value as the word Hateva, the nature. There's a correlation between Hashem's strict justice and Teva, because they're both strict justice. They're both unyielding. The din and the din here. So Chachamim explain, once you begin to believe in the teva of this world, and you put emphasis on its power, then what's going to happen is that you should know you're putting yourself under HaKadosh Baruch Hu's strict justice. So we have to figure out a way to get out of that judgment. How do we do it? How do we do it? Well, the name that describes Hashem's attribute of Rachamim is a name we're all very familiar with. Yud, Hey, Avav, and Hey. Whenever you see that name, you know that Hashem is utilizing His ultimate attribute of mercy in the world. So somehow, we have to make a combination of the Yud, Hey, Vav, and Hey together with the name Elokim. When we do that, it kind of, what Chachamim say, sweetens the din, sweetens the judgment. The name Yud, K, Vav, Hey, Lahavdil, is like a sweetener that we put into the name Elokim, which sweetens the judgment, and in some cases, the judgment turns into complete Rachamim Bichlal. So watch what happens now. Chachamim teach that when Hashem created the world, He created it only with din. That's why it says, Bereshit bara Elokim. In the beginning, Hashem used only one name by which He was going to deal with His world, and that was the name Elokim, which represented strict justice. But then, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that if this is the only attribute that He uses by which to run the world, human beings won't be able to exist. Who could exist only under Hashem's strict justice? We disappear in a second after every Averah. That's why later on in Bereshit you see, by the creation of the world, the Pasuk all of a sudden says, Beyom asot Hashem Elokim Shamayim va'aretz. At this point Hashem already added the name Yud Kei Vav Kei the name that represents Hashem's attribute of mercy in order to sweeten the judgment. But notice, Hashem didn't get rid of the name Elokim. Not at all. He just sweetened it by adding the name Yud Hey Vav Hey. And Chachamim tell us that's the key of life. What does that mean? Now listen to the Chidush. That's the key of life. Those who live only according to the rules of nature, and I'll explain what that means soon, those people are doomed and they won't be able to have a good life. They won't be able to live. Such people are going to experience roadblocks wherever they go in life. For example, I'll give you an example. Let's say you visit a doctor and you really believe that it's the doctor's abilities and his experience, years of experience, his degree, his expertise that's going to heal you, and it has nothing to do with Hashem. That means you're relying on nature, the nature of the human being. The Pasuk says on such a person who believes that, Rabbi machovim larasha. The Rasha has many sicknesses because as long as he's trusting the doctor and the medications, that means that he's being influenced by the Teva in the world. But the Teva is unrelenting. The Teva has no mercy. The Teva is dangerous. But he's relying on the Teva. So he's in a dangerous situation. So what should a person do? Should we stop visiting doctors when we're not feeling well? Of course not. But Chachamim tell us you have to understand that all these doctors and all the medications in the world, they're just mere agents of Hashem. They're shlichim of Hashem. V'abotech b'Hashem chesed yisovevenu. Those who place their faith in the Creator, in the Yachid u'Meyuchad, those are the ones that are going to be surrounded by chesed. So ladies, when we go on a trip, we don't realize how much we rely on the Teva rather than on Hashem. We assume that because we know how to drive, and we've got a full tank of gas, and our license is in our wallet, and we have plenty of money in our pocket, so all's going to be well. We're going to be doing very well. But that's all Teva. And that's what the Gemara says. Kol hadrachim becheskat sakana. All the roads are dangerous. You have to know that. You think the only roads that are dangerous are the ones in the Bronx? Or the ones that you travel on late at night? No. The Gemara says, Kol hadrachim becheskat sakana. They're all dangerous. So before you go out on any journey, even if it means from this house back to your house, you have to carry the name of Hashem with you. And that's going to protect you against the Teva out there that's very, very cruel and very unrelenting. So remember the words of the Parashat. Al pi Hashem yachanu, ve'al pi Hashem yisa'u. This is a very important yesod. These words emphasize the idea of hashgacha pratit, that everything that happens is all from Borei Olam. As parents, you have to make your children aware of the hashgacha pratit in the world and in their own life. Every Friday night, you should do this. Every Friday night at the table, you should ask each of your children to tell a story of hashgacha pratit that happened to them that week. That reinforces their emunah in Hashem. As a matter of fact, Rabbi Eli Mansour, told a story that happened by his table Friday night when he asked his little daughter to tell a story of hashgacha pratit. So the little girl said, me and mommy were driving home to Brooklyn from Manhattan, and as we were approaching the Battery Tunnel, we noticed that there were two lanes. One lane had a lot of traffic on it, and the other lane had no traffic on it. And for some reason, mommy drove into the lane with a lot of traffic. That's it. That's my hashgacha pratit story. That's it. No, that's under the story. Oh, where's the hashgacha exactly? Rabbi Metz was like, where's the hashgacha? And he says, so where's the hashgacha? And the little girl said, that is hashgacha because Hashem put us in that lane. This little girl is smarter than all of us. Because we assume that if we take the lane with no traffic and we get home 20 minutes early, oh, that's hashgacha pratit, oh, wow. And if we end up in the lane with a lot of traffic, what's that? That's kaparat amonot. That's Yisurim. That's also the hashgacha of Hashem. The one who put you in the fast lane is the same one who put you in the slow lane. Why? Because Hashem wanted you to be in that lane for whatever reason that's known only to Him. Maybe during those extra 20 minutes you got a little bored from the traffic and you decided to put on Torah anytime and listen to one of my shiurim. Maybe. And you learned something from it. Maybe you went over your conversation that you had with your husband that day and you realized, oh, I shouldn't have said that, and you called him up to apologize. You don't know what's happening during that time. But Hashem knows. And Hashem knows what He's sparing you from if you would have taken the fast lane too. Don't be in such a rush in life. Don't be in such a rush. So ladies, if you travel with this understanding, no matter where you go, you're going across the street now. You live across the street, it's, oh, Bezrat Hashem, I'm crossing the street now. Not only will you have an easier time when things don't go your way, but you'll have an added hashgacha because Hashem is always going to be on your mind and on your lips. If you live with the understanding that al pi Hashem yachanu, ve'al pi Hashem yisa'u, if you understand that everything comes from Hashem, is supervised by Him, decreed by Him, you're going to feel such a great sense of calmness and peacefulness in your life. Not only that, but if you live with that attitude, you're going to experience so many chasadim of Hashem. And if we follow this instruction of the Shlach HaKadosh, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to reach our destinations, ונגיע למקום חפצנו לחיים טובים ולשלום. אמן כן יהי רצון. Any questions?
Is there a similar concept, how you started the shiur on all the different nisiot of Klal Yisrael being in different countries and absorbing also the nitzutzim of that country, and then we're expelled from that country when we've already extracted those nitzutzim?
So I was just reading a very, very interesting Kabbalistic idea that's brought down in one of the Sfarim, that we think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu dispersed us among the nations of the world because we sinned. And the truth is that was the catalyst of why we were dispersed. But in all honesty and reality, Hashem had a plan. Because He could have left us in Eretz Yisrael just under the rulership of a Gentile government. Like we see, like during the Roman era, the Romans were in Yerushalayim. Right? They were in charge of Eretz Yisrael. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have arranged it that we just stay in Eretz Yisrael and do tshuva over there and do what we need to do over there under a different government. That's not what Hashem did. Hashem spread us throughout the entire world because all over the world He knew that there are sparks of holiness that belong to our side that need to be gathered before the great day where Mashiach is going to come. All these sparks have to be gathered. That's number one. Number two, we were scattered to those specific spots in the world because our neshama has a connection to that ground for some reason, and only there we could accomplish our tikkun. As a matter of fact, Chachamim say that that's the reason why a lot of times Chachamim traveled from one certain country to the next, because, lemashal, even the Torah is divided into sections. And each lesson of Torah is also dispersed in the Galut. And we are gathering those chidushim from those parts of the world because our neshama is connected to that part of the Torah, and that part of Torah happens to be in that place. So, lemashal, is the stories told of Chachamim that for some reason had a blockage of chidushim in a particular place, and all of a sudden they took a ride to the next country, boom, hits them an idea, a chidush, something. Why? Because there is where they were able to extract the chidush that's connected to that place. Which means, wherever a Jew is in the world, you have to make sure that you're accomplishing something.
whenever, if you follow all the vibrations that all the times that the adversary got dispersed around the world, they got to places and then they just became like the people of the place, you know.
But that was the mistake that they made. That was the mistake that they made. But notice what happened. In Egypt, there were lots of Nitzutzei Kedusha over there, from the times already of Noah and the Tower of Babel and all of that, and even from the time of Adam Rishon, they ended up in Mitzrayim. What do you think Klal Yisrael was there for 210 years? Hashem wanted them there for 210 years because those holy sparks were embedded in such the tumah, the filth of Mitzrayim. We needed to be there 210 years in order to extract. But guess what? When we extracted those neshamot, Egypt fell. Egypt never was the same again. Same thing happened in Spain. Spain fell. Spain was considered the country. They were the wealthiest, the most prestigious. Am Yisrael was expelled from there. They did their work. And look what happened to Spain. It fell. Same thing, Rome. Rome was, right? But during the Roman era, look how many Tanaim we had during that era. Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. You're talking about major Tanaim that did what they had to do. But once they left the world, what happened to Rome? Bye-bye. So you see that wherever we do our job, when we're extracting and we're reading of certain aspects of Tumah, that country falls, or that government falls. Chachamim say right now, we are in the auspices of Esav. In Esav, here, the America and Europe, lots of Nitzutzei Kedusha. That's why we've been in Galut for over close to 2,000 years, 1,950 years to be exact. And we're still gathering sparks and we're trying to be rid of Tumah. But what's the problem? Instead of getting rid of the Tumah and gathering the sparks, we're becoming part of the Tumah and leaving the sparks, let them tend for themselves, you know, and they'll find their way home. That's what we don't understand. Every Averah, we breed Tumah. We give Asav Koach. Every mitzvah, we gather another spark, another spark, another spark, another spark. So I always tell people, stop being selfish. People need you out there. These neshamot need you. Come on, do what you need to do. Get your act together. So I always tell people, get your act together and do what you need to do in order to rectify, so we should always go home already. You want to stay stuck here for the rest of your life? I mean, for you, maybe yes, because you're in a physical body and you're kind of enjoying the pleasures of the Esav society and you feel the freedom. But maybe one day I should give you a shiur to shake you out of your complacency, to teach you what's happening with those poor Nitzutzei Kedusha. Maybe if you understood, they're not in a body. They're wandering and they're being chased by all kinds of demons and mazikin and evil forces and miskanim. You go home and you get under your satin sheets and you, I don't know, you know, whatever, your pleasantries. And these neshamot are suffering. We're going to be held accountable for that at the end of the day.
Are you saying that the sparks of holiness are these neshamot, like the Ben Ishai had in that jail cell?
Correct. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Except that each one of us is connected to different sparks. Different sparks that are rooted in our neshama, and for some reason we are the ones that can extract them and nobody else. So for example, when you're home alone, so you have the ability to, you know, I always said, you know the expression, the walls have ears?
Yeah.
The walls have ears. The walls have ears. Because there are sparks of Kedusha in the walls, in the ground, on the table, in the shtender. In every inanimate object, there is a life force that's keeping it in existence. What's the life force? The Nitzotz Kedusha. We know this. The energy, what's that energy? People call it energy. It's not energy, it's the Nitzotzei Kedusha. If there was no Kedusha, if there was no holy sparks, this thing would fall apart. You would see it falling apart. Same thing with the human body. What's keeping your body in existence? Rak neshama. The minute the neshama leaves the body, that's your nitzot, what happens to the body? It disintegrates, it decomposes, nachon? So that's why I always tell people, if you're home alone, it's wonderful. Say brachot, daven, say teilim. Every little thing you do, every ma'aseh tov, every good action, every word of lashon hara that you prevented from coming out of your mouth, it goes to the credit of these nitzutzei kedusha, like we read from the Ben Ish Chai, that Be'ezrat Hashem, when the time comes to,
And this is
they're gonna greet you and they're gonna thank you.
sorry. So, and this is in your house or
Everywhere.
in your business?
Everywhere, in the trees, in the grass, in the flowers, in an animal, even the food that you eat. That's why it's so important to make a bracha, to make a bracha with kavanah. Not just that, you take it even further. Anywhere you end up, let's say you went on vacation with your husband, and you booked a particular hotel. You think you booked that hotel? Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted you in that hotel. And then you get a certain room, a number. That number is designed for you. Because in that room, room 137, there's sparks that need to be gathered.
It's so profound.
And the manner in which you're going to make the brachot in that room, the manner in which you engage, even how you speak with your husband in that room, or anything else that takes place in that room, the manner in which things happen is going to elevate those sparks. You understand?
And the source for this is the Ben Ish Chai.
Not just the Ben Ish Chai. Everyone talks about it. Specifically, Bishimon Bar Yochai writes about it, but then later on, the one who embellishes on it the most is the Ari HaKadosh, of which Rav Chaim Vital, alav hashalom, who was his prime talmid, wrote volumes and volumes of Sfarim. You could read a lot of it. I mean, you shouldn't read it directly inside, but you could see books on it in English called Sha'ar HaGilgulim, right, the gate of reincarnations, and also Sha'ar Aruchot, the gate of spirits. And there the Ari pretty much explains. I wouldn't recommend that you look directly inside because, first of all, a lot of it has some Aramaic terms and a lot of mystical insights that are not for a woman to delve into. Especially, let's be honest, some of us are not on the level, or God forbid, let's say you open up a sefer, but what if you're in the middle of your menstrual cycle? It's not incumbent upon you to open up Sifrei Kabbalah. Certainly not for a woman when, or let's say you're dressed inappropriately, zalomatim. So how do I know from these things? Because there's certain books that are for us, and they quote the Ari, they quote Rav Chaim Vital, or in some historical Sfarim, biographies, you read it. But never look inside these Kabbalistic Sfarim. A woman shouldn't look directly inside. We're still in Galut because we're collecting them. But at the same time, we have to be rid of the Tumah.
So we have to ask the question is, what was the cause of his neshama being dispersed?
Because when Adam HaRishon was created and Chava was created, embedded in their neshama, there was one neshama of which inside Hashem put in Adam, who was the male figure, all the sparks of neshamot that were destined to be born to the world from Adam till the end of time. And in Chava, all the female souls. The Ari HaKadosh writes, Al Pi Rabbi Shimon and other great Tanaim of his generation, that what happened was, if we're going to put it in layman's terms, because it's, these are Kabbalistic terms, but for lack of a better word, when Adam and Chava ate from the Etz HaDat, there was some kind of, again, for lack of a better word, an explosion that took place inside their being, where poof, all of these little sparks became exposed to the air. Now, in that air, after the sin, the Sitra Acha, the dark side, we'll call them, I always call the dark side, that's where they get all these ideas from, Star Trek and Star Wars, Darth Vader. Point being, So what happened was, when the Sitra Achra, when the dark side saw all these Nitzutzei Kedusha, they feed off of it. This is how they exist. Ooh, they started collecting. And the other side, the side of Kedusha, also started to collect. So a lot of sparks ended up in the Sitra Achra, the dark side. Some of which, the Ari says, many of them are Gerim that have to come back. The sparks of Gerim are on the side of the Sitra Achra, and we have to bring them back. Jews that went off the derech have to be brought back. Jews that, let's say, grew up not even knowing that they're Jews. But these are all sparks that eventually, some of which were born to the world and ended up in different remote Tumah places, like Ruth. Ruth was one of these sparks that was actually born to the world, but her spark, it says, was actually embedded in a very interesting place. It was embedded already in Moab, a long time before she was even born. The spark was there, and she had to be extracted from there. Who came along to extract her from there? Machlon, he married her. And boom, you understand? And then she came out of there physically. That's also a process. Physically, went to Eretz Yisrael and accomplished her tikkun. Ruth is one of these neshamot that we know belonged by the Sitra Achra. David HaMelech also belonged there. David HaMelech was on the other side. And his nitzotz neshama was embedded also in a particular place and had to be plucked out, extracted from there. There's many of them. Rabbi Akiva is one of these neshamot. Antoninus, Antoninus is one of these sparks, holy sparks. Many of them that were born. And then the other ones are remaining kind of like floating and waiting to be redeemed. No, but the point is, look at the attitude that one has to have is, nothing that happens is for naught, that everything is pre-planned and destined, and Hashem is just leading you to your ultimate destiny and to the destiny of all those that you're releasing. You understand? That's the attitude that one has to have. I'm here, I'm going for a purpose.
He said that Ben Ish Chai would stand for anyone with disabilities. That he would get up and he would give them the respect and the honor, because he said the neshamas came from such high, lofty places.
Sure. And as a matter of fact, my uncle, he should live and be well, was recently, 2 years ago, went to see Rabbi David Abuchatzera, Shalita, in Nahariya. And Rabbi David Abuchatzera is the grandson of the Baba Sali. He's the grandson of the Baba Sali. When he was a little boy, they kept him so secluded and shmirat enayim that when he used to walk to school, to cheder, they used to make a wall of men around him, and the men used to walk with him like this, and he was in the middle as a little boy, so you shouldn't be able to see anything that could hinder his holiness. But this Rabbi David doesn't even accept the handwriting of a lady. That's how strict he is. If he sees, if he even thinks or feels, is the hand, get it away from me. He doesn't even doesn't talk to ladies, not on the phone, nothing. Kitza Amase, so everyone goes to him for bracha because he's got powerful kohot. So my uncle went to see him, and he noticed, usually when you go to Rabbi David, he sits behind the table, and then people come by, and it goes very fast because there's so many people come from all hours of the night and they just come by. They give him the petek, they give him with the names, or he quickly reads, gives a quick bracha, unless he sees something extraordinary, and then move on. So my uncle noticed that the table was gone, and he was just standing by a stender. And now my uncle was all the way over there, and it took a while until my uncle came, and he noticed that the Rav isn't sitting. So my uncle happens to be close friends of Rabbi David Abuchatzera's Gabbai. So my uncle, as he was passing by, got the bracha. I quickly went to the Gabbai and he says, Tama, what's going on over here? The Rav is standing. He says, he's been standing for hours and he's going to continue to stand till then. Why not? Why? What was going on? So he's like this. 2 years ago, Rabbi David Abu Chatzera had a dream. And in this dream, the Baba Sali, alav shalom, who is his grandfather, came to him in this dream. And he scolded him. He gave him musar. And he says, you're not embarrassed that lo mitbayesh? Twice already the Mashiach came to you and you didn't stand up for him? Twice he was by you. He said from that moment on, he never sits when people come because... So people asked, well, if he's Rabbi David Abu Chatzera, how come he didn't know it was the Mashiach? Because Hashem doesn't want us yet to know who the Mashiach is. Even Mashiach doesn't know he's the Mashiach. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, he didn't know that he was going to be the Redeemer until HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him on that mountain, you're going to go now redeem the people. But until that time, he didn't even know he was a lowly shepherd tending the sheep of Yitro. So what's the good news? Mashiach is here. He's already here.
You should get
right?
a list of names, right?
So gather the sparks. Get the act together. Do what you need to do as women. Don't be afraid. Let's go. Rise up. Vatakom. We spoke about that. And Mashiach will come and everything will be fine. Hopefully. Be'ezat Hashem. So now I am Be'ezat Hashem packing up. Be'ezat Hashem getting into my car. Be'ezat Hashem driving back to Brooklyn. And Be'ezat Hashem I hope to arrive safely.